Welcome to your Daily Dose of Theological German. We're on installment number 6 of Adolf Schlatter's The Evangelist, John. So we finally have a sentence that's a little bit more complicated than what we've been looking at the last couple of days. So we'll spend a bit of time looking through a couple of things here that will be of interest. So not about, well, first of all, you're going to have word order problems here right away. So rather than being all wooden, let's just quickly highlight a couple of things. Here you have in this sentence two clauses, and they both are formed with a werden verb. So you'll notice that in the first clause, werden is showing up in second position technically after this big bunch of prepositional phrases. Then you have werden, and so then that's complemented by this participle. And so you want to just watch out when werden is complemented by a participle, it's going to be a passive construction. If that was a infinitive, then you would be looking at a future tense. But of course here with the ge prefix, you know it's a participle for sure, a past participle. And you'll know that down here as well, although it's less obvious, but if you were to try to look this word up, you would find out that you're looking at the participial form. And in particular, the reason you know that is because in the lexical form, this vowel is actually EI. It's unterscheiden. So it changes to unterschieden, and that tells you that you're looking at the past participle. And you'll also notice that in this case, the past participle comes first and then werden comes at the end, and that's because you're dealing here with a secondary clause. So you always want to watch for that. Your verbs will move around, and you can distinguish between the main verb in terms of what's really being construed as the process in the sentence, which in this case is unterscheiden, which is to distinguish, and in this case is sprechen, which is to say or to speak about something. That's your main construal. However, the main verb in terms of the verb that is conjugated in this case is werden in both cases. And so you can kind of see how that moves around. But anyways, once you've sorted that out, you can reorder things and get a translation that is a little bit easier to read. So let's just erase all that and translate the sentence. So you might need to throw in a subject sort of. In English, you want to say it. It is, sorry, pick up your werden down here. It is not spoken or said concerning the sins of the Jews, rather about, quote, the sins of the world. In this bit of commentary here, Schlatter is commenting on John's Gospel, where John the Baptist talks about Jesus being the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world, and so he's commenting how it's the sin of the world, not just the sin of the Jews. Well, why? Because the Jew is, again, you're dealing with a passive construction here, is not distinguished from the other peoples as the righteous one, or sort of righteous. So that's a pretty straightforward sentence, really, when it comes down to it, once you know what's going on with the verbs, etc. But I want to talk about one other thing, and that is all of this here. Look at this. Der, 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 oh, der. Why is this relevant? Well, because look at, you have different uses of der, and so it's just good to review the basics of German from time to time. And so I want to just talk about how we determine which of these ders are genitives and which are nominatives. And oh, here's one, der, and on it goes. So let's take a quick look at that. So you'll notice that I translated some of these clearly as genitives, right? The sins of the Jews, and here the sin of the world. The thing is, there's different things going on here. Here, of course, this I didn't do as genitive, der, the Jew, that's clearly nominative. And so how are you going to tell? Well, the thing is with particularly der, it is going to depend on the gender and the number of the word in question. So with the case of sin, here, Sünde, that word is a feminine noun, and so der is going to be the genitive definite article that goes with a feminine noun. And you know it's genitive also because here you have von, and this preposition will often take a genitive when it means something like concerning or about. So you have those kind of cues, and so you're dealing here with a feminine singular. But Jew is not feminine, it's obviously masculine, but here it's plural. And so when you're dealing with plurals, then you similarly can have der show up as the genitive. If it was singular, of course, it would have been des. And so if you're ever not sure, though, what something is, so you can tell sometimes by the way a word looks. So Sunda, I would have assumed was feminine because of that E ending in the singular. However, Welt, I would have actually probably assumed was masculine, and yet here you can see der, and you know from context it has to be genitive, and so it's sort of, I guess, a cue to you that maybe that's not masculine. But if you're trying to validate for sure and know for sure, then you might actually just have to look up a word in the dictionary. So if you look up Welt, this is in Cassell's, you'll see here, it will tell you that it's feminine. Okay, so that little F there, and whatever dictionary you're using, you'll find something similar. It tells you that it's feminine. And then you just have to remember your paradigms, right? So for a feminine noun, your nominative and accusative are both D, and your genitive and datives are both der. And so in this case, I guess it's still somewhat ambiguous. It technically could be dative, but that would be weird in the context. The sins to the world. Although you can kind of see why you lose the distinction between them, because sin of the world or sin with respect to the world in the end is communicating something very similar, and so you can see why over time languages lose the distinctions between some of those kinds of things because they are so close and so contextually determined what they actually mean anyway that that you don't always need that. But in any case, you can always look up words in the dictionary. That's what I recommend if you want to just make sure. You can usually tell from context what's going on, but if you want to just make sure, when in doubt, look it up in the dictionary and then just remember how your paradigm works to make sure that you're getting the right der, especially because that's one that gets used for, you can see here, plural genitives and feminine genitives. And so you never know exactly what's going on, so you got to put the whole thing together, and hope you find that helpful. Once again, thanks for watching, and tune in tomorrow. Check out some playlists there from other things we have read in German if you're looking for more German to work your way through, and we'll see you tomorrow.